Well, you know something, brother. This is Mark Mingle from Colorado Springs. And what you gonna do when the Surely You Can't Be Serious podcast runs wild on you?
All right, Dee, I've got a trivia question for you to start off the episode today.
Okay.
Can you name the first band to have 5 singles reach the top 5 on the Hot 100?
I'm going to go on a limb here.
Yes?
Is it Genesis?
It's not Genesis.
Oh. Well, that was a dirty
I know.
question.
It's actually, I set you up for that.
You really did. I mean, that's not fair.
So here's the thing. The Beatles are the first band. They actually had 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the Hot 100 all at the same time.
Right.
But those singles were from different albums.
Ah, okay.
So, can you name the first band with 5 singles to reach the top 5 of the Hot 100, all from the same album?
Is it Genesis?
It's Genesis.
Wow. How did I know?
Today, we are going to be talking about that album and those songs from the Invisible Touch album.
Invisible Touch, this is the 13th studio album by the band Genesis. Now, obviously, they went through several new beginnings, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is number 13. And to think that these guys, when they got together to record this album, they had no songs in the bank. They literally just said, we're just going to get together and we're just going to improvise and we'll just put out whatever we come up with. And what they came up with was an album full. 5 chart-topping singles on this album?
5 in the top 5.
That is crazy.
And when they started, they had nothing but a big blank piece of paper.
Blank piece of paper and a drum machine.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. The 808.
The 808s.
The 808. So we we text our buddies. Deaf Dave said, "Do you know the 808 story?"
I don't know the 808 story.
Right. And you're like, "Yes, we got it." And I'm like, "Do we?" What? And you're like, "Isn't it the gated thing?" And I was like, No. Gated drum is like that was a real drum with a noise gate on it. The 808 was one of the first drum machines. And I mean, every major rap album that you heard in the 80s had the 808, TR 808. And obviously a whole lot of other pop albums had it as well. And it was a primary force in both Invisible Touch and No Jacket Required. I didn't look, but my guess is it's probably also a big part of So.
Probably so.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about Genesis,
Yeah.
to me, I mean, it has these different evolutions of the band.
Yep.
They made several albums without Phil Collins
Yes.
and had a
Few.
substantial success.
Yep.
And then they have several albums without Peter Gabriel
Even more success.
with even more success.
Yep.
And then they have a little in there where they had this guy named Steve Hackett,
Yeah.
who pulled the dumbest ripcord of all time and said,
got out right when things were getting hot.
"My gosh, how'd
But-
you like to be that guy?"
Well, I mean, he did okay. He did okay. And we'll talk about him in a little bit when we kind of get into their history. But let's jump into this album, man. I mean, we've got a trinity of Genesis songs and albums in 1985 and 1986. We are on our third of the 3 now. If you haven't listened, go back and check out our Peter Gabriel So album that we covered with Chad Briggs. Check out our No Jacket Required Phil Collins album. And then here we are today to talk about Invisible Touch and how all of these things are married together in the past.
So let's just do a quick overview of Invisible Touch.
Okay.
It was released June 6th of 1986. That's after So, and of course after No Jacket Required. Mm-hmm. Hugh Padgham is our producer on this one as well.
Yes.
Right? This is after, Genesis had put out an album in 83.
Yep.
And then you had the guys break up and do their own solo thing.
But not break up.
Not break up. Well,
Yeah.
the BBC reported that they had broken up.
Right. They just said, would you guys like to go do some other stuff? And everybody was like, yeah, let's go do some other stuff.
So Tony Banks, he goes and does a couple of albums, soundtracks for movies. I looked at those movies. I didn't recognize any of them.
Yeah, he said they were not very well received. And he said after doing that much work and getting that little reception on it, he wasn't real super interested in doing soundtracks anymore.
Okay. Mike Rutherford goes on and forms Mike and the Mechanics, which is a supergroup.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they have some huge hits in the mid-'80s.
Yeah.
All I Need Is a Miracle, The Living Years.
All I Need Is a Miracle came out before this, right?
It did, yeah. That was 85.
So he's riding that success as he comes into Invisible Touch.
Yeah. I mean, Silent Running, All I Need Is a Miracle, Those are big hits from 85.
Silent Running. Go check out our top 5 of 1985 earlier this year. Love that song.
That's
Fantastic song. And I didn't even realize it. Now, he of course, he wasn't singing the lead vocals when he was with Mike and the Mechanics. He had a couple of other guys come in and sing.
Paul Young and Paul Carrick, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember which one of them it is, but one of them passed away, like...
Paul Young.
Yeah, died in a hotel room. Drug overdose, I believe.
That's the guy who sings All I Need Is a Miracle.
Which apparently that's what he needed and didn't get it. Too bad.
Yep. But the guys come back together with those three guys, Tony Banks, Mike Rutherford, Phil Collins. They looking at this blank piece of paper. They said, well, let's just improv our way and see what happens. And you get this unbelievable album.
Hey, when you're on your 13th album as a band, not to mention the other solo projects that they were just doing, and you show up and we're like, well, let's just see what you can do. You can probably do some pretty impressive stuff.
I saw that their typical day looked like they start about 11 a.m. And they'd finish about 2 a.m.
That sounds about right for a musician, right?
Phil said, I heard him talking. He said, you get there, somebody else is doing their thing. You're standing around doing a whole lot of nothing. Mm-hmm. He said, then pretty soon you start raiding the fridge. He said, I always put on weight while we did albums.
That's hilarious.
So, all right. Well, let's dive into the first track, man. I mean, let's get this thing started.
Let's not wait any longer. Jumping in.
Track number 1, Invisible Touch.
Shall we start off with a banger?
My gosh, it's like Powder Keg at Silver Dollar City. That intro, you are off and running like a bullet on this one.
Yep. I love the video on this one because it's them being goofy and themselves being silly before a show. It looks like, I mean, they even have their own little handheld cameras that they're doing stuff with, and Phil is being silly with the drumsticks, and they finish off the video by singing a little a cappella version of the song together, and you're just like, these guys are rock stars, and they're like dads up there, you know, being just goofy and silly.
It looks like the guys, like the crew is working around them while they're screwing around.
Yeah.
Phil's singing in his drumsticks, and I played it at the very beginning when you were still studying your notes. He has this real goofy yuck laugh at the beginning of it that cracks me up.
Yes.
I can direct videos, man. I can direct videos. It's no problem. Pout, baby, pout. Pout. Come on, baby. Give me all you got.
And he's got his own little handheld camera. This video cost about $5 in a sandwich.
It really did. Like they probably had the camera anyway because they bring cameras to live shows all the time. And so it was just like, hey, let's just go ahead and make the video for this one today. We've got a couple of hours while the guys are setting up. Let's just do it now.
Right. Why not? Let's do it right now.
I'm sure it was a chart-topping.
Number 1. This is a number 1 hit.
Yep.
And now it seems I'm falling for her. She seems to have invisible touch. She reaches in and grabs my holding.
You want to hear the top 5?
Yes, of course.
This week in July of 86. Okay.
July of 86. Okay.
July 19th of 86.
Yeah.
Number 5 is Holding Back the Years by Simply Red. Okay. Number 4 is Danger Zone.
Well, sure.
Go check out our Top Gun soundtrack episode.
Yep.
Number 3 is Nasty by Janet Jackson.
That was big back in the day. Miss Jackson, if you're
Don't
nasty.
call her baby.
It's Janet.
It's Janet.
Miss Jackson, if you're nasty.
Number 2 is Sledgehammer.
Of course.
From Peter Gabriel.
So, yes.
And, of course, number 1 is Invisible Touch. Now, when Invisible Touch gets knocked out the next week, it gets knocked out by Sledgehammer.
Right.
We talked about the story how Phil said at the time they didn't realize it, but if they had, he would have sent him a telegram saying, congratulations, bastard.
Bastard.
All right, so here's the thing. I'm going to play a song for you.
Okay.
And you tell me if this song reminds you of Invisible Touch, okay?
Okay. Okay, so that's Sheila E.
Yes.
What's the name of the song?
The song's called The Glamorous Life.
Yeah, The Glamorous Life. Yeah, but do I think it sounds a lot like Invisible Touch? Oh, I mean, there's a little similarity in the drum beat, but that's about it.
So we talked about how I think Susudio had a 1999 feel. Phil received some criticism because
Oh, right.
they felt
I'm
like
sorry, to clarify, 1999, the song by Prince and the Revolution.
That's right.
I was like,
That's right.
they were playing futuristic songs. Okay, I got you now. Yes,
right.
yes.
The song 1999 by Prince, they felt like Susudio sounded a little bit too much like Prince.
Right.
Okay, like that song.
Yeah. Still don't agree with.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, gosh, I'm a fan of Prince. I love Prince music. Purple Rain, blah blah blah." Well, this song, Phil got his inspiration from the song "The Glamorous Life" by Sheila E.
Oh, he gave her credit for this.
He gave her credit.
So it's inspiration.
Yes.
It's not a copy,
It's
but
not a
just
copy.
I liked what you did here. I'm going to take some of those
Yes.
tricks.
That's right.
Which, if you listen to all the greats, that's what they say. Good artists create, great artists steal.
That's it.
There you go.
That's it. So, do you know what this song is about?
Well, I don't know her, but I know her name.
Well, so do I.
No, tell me what it's about.
So, obviously, it's about a toxic woman who you just can't quite say no to.
Yeah.
She gets under your skin. She F's up your life.
Yep.
And you just can't quite say no to her. He says that large chunks of this song are about Andrea Bertorelli,
The first wife.
his first wife.
Yes.
He called her Andy. And yes, he did have problems saying no to her even when she was rejecting him.
Right.
But if you'll allow me, I think the real woman who had a hold on his life that he just couldn't let go of, her name was Lavinia.
Yeah, so Lavinia was the one that Andy and she both sang backup in Phil's original band, and then he ran into her later when he was married to Jill, his
Yes.
second wife.
Yes.
And had a little tryst.
They started a torrid love affair
Right.
that destroyed her family and his, and,
Yeah. And
cost him a lot of money.
multi-million-dollar divorce.
That's right. The origin of this song. It was originally part of Domino, which we're going to talk about here in a minute.
Which part? Domino Part 1 or Domino Part 2?
Not exactly sure.
All right, well, we'll get to that. I mean, that's going to be side 2, right?
That is side 2.
Side 2, so we got a ways to go here.
We do. But they liked it so much, they pulled it out of that song and said, this needs to be its own thing.
Yeah, I love it. This is a fantastic song. It's no surprise to me that it's the number one single, but just as a little hook, I'm just going to tell you, we're going to talk about the band, the history of the band, Peter Gabriel's involvement with the band, and the guy who named the band, who's now not allowed within 500 feet of a school, and I'll tell you that story in a bit.
Okay. Next song on the album. This song is called Tonight, Tonight, Tonight.
Get away from me. Cause tonight, 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 I'm gonna make it right. Tonight, tonight, tonight.
Okay, number one, the dink, 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 dink is freaking cool as heck
It
on
is.
this song.
Yeah.
It's like somebody beating on the prison bars or something like that. This song, to me, has got to be about some kind of an addiction, right? I mean, he's coming down like a monkey. I don't really know what that means, but I'm going to assume that has something to do with the monkey on your back. And he needs help, and the person who he's talking to isn't helping him.
So this is the mid-'80s.
Yes.
When cocaine dust is on everything.
Yes.
The song was originally titled Monkey Zulu.
Okay.
It's about a cocaine dealer
Ah.
that they can't break free from,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
I don't know if this is true or just kind of a fairy tale or whatever, but it is sort of that Miami Vice feel, that a Miami Vice story, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
The cool thing to me is Michelob was the sponsor for the Genesis American leg of their tour.
Okay.
I sent you a commercial the other day, a Michelob commercial with Tonight, Tonight, Tonight as the song. And the Michelob commercial in itself is like its own little Miami Vice episode. It's pretty cool.
Okay.
But here's the thing. This song was not going to be released as a single until that commercial really took off.
Oh, so the commercial using the song came out before the song was
came out-
released as a single.
It came out first.
Wow,
And Tony
all right.
Banks says that if it hadn't been for that commercial, we wouldn't have released it. It'd been like just this long thing, kind of like Domino.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed whenever I listened to it on the album, I was surprised at how long it was. I mean, the song's something like
9 minutes long.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they released it, and it goes to number 3.
Well, you keep telling me I got everything. You say I got everything I want. And you keep telling me
Tell me you got the list.
I do. Yes.
Okay.
So number 5 is "Come Go With Me" by Exposé, which it's a dance song. I like it.
Yeah.
Number 4, "Let's Wait a While" by Janet Jackson.
Okay.
The "You Ain't Getting Any Tonight" song.
Right.
Okay. Number 3, "Tonight, Tonight, Tonight." Number 2, "Lean on Me" by Club Nouveau.
Oh, that was everywhere. Yeah, I remember that very well.
And then number 1, "Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now" by Starship.
Oh my gosh. This
Big
song's-
hit for Mannequin.
I was gonna say this, the big hit for Mannequin. Yeah, how does this song not beat those two songs? I don't know.
I don't know. This song is among the best in the album. I almost spiked the football, but I'm holding out for one.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm holding out too. We'll see how it goes. I've actually got a surprise discovery on this album too, so I'm anxious to talk about that one as well.
Okay. I have a nugget on this song that
Okay.
I'm dying to tell, but that you are reining me in on this.
So tell the story.
So I'm watching the video for Tonight, Tonight, Tonight.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the location where this video was shot, and I'm like, wait a minute, I recognize this place. I know where they are. And so I tell you, I'm like, dude, watch this video and tell me if I'm crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't Google this. I just recognized it.
Right.
And you're like, hey, I think it's where this movie was shot. And I'm like, me too. And
You looked it up.
then I Googled it, and we were right.
We are right. Okay, so now we're going to leave this as a little teaser. Where this video was shot, another movie that we have covered in the past was shot at the same place. If you're listening to my voice right now, comment on the YouTube video or comment on the Spotify or whatever podcast you're using, or email us or hit us up on Twitter or whatever. But you tell us what you think the movie was that used the same setting as the Tonight, Tonight, Tonight video. And I will give you one more hint. June 1982.
That's too easy. You can't tell that.
I can. There are a lot of fantastic movies that came out in June of 1982, and we've covered several of them. But
Okay.
there you go.
Wow. That nugget just wants to leap out of my mouth.
When you very first told me, you were like, I've got this nugget that's dying to come out. And I was like, are we talking about trivia or a bowel movement?
Yes.
Okay, I suppose that's just a good ending for that for that song.
Right.
What's next on the album, my friend?
Next song on the album is a song called "Land of Confusion."
I must have dreamed 1,000 dreams.
Spiking the Football. This is the best song on the album.
This is the best song on the
It
album.
is 100% the best song. This is the one song off the album that I had downloaded on my phone for years now because it's just that good.
It's so good, right?
Yes.
And it's so 80s.
Yes, and then you've got with the video, you've got this incredible time capsule from that time period. And we're talking about 1986, and Gorbachev and Reagan are at the front of your TV at all times.
Yeah,
Everybody is fully invested in the Cold War, and who would have guessed that a mere 3 years later, the wall would come tumbling down and communism would fall?
Okay, so the Muppets or whatever these guys are.
They're the spitting image guys. Like, so I used to watch this show. They had a show on HBO, and obviously, as you've noted, they're like puppets, but it was a very adult humor kind of show that they had on HBO, and I used to watch them all the time. And then when I saw this video, I was like, oh, these are these guys, and they're caricatures of Phil Collins and Mike Rutherford and Tony Banks are all on point. But you've got this whole kind of weird Ronald Reagan's having a dream where he's Superman trying to save the world from the evil Gorbachev. And I think the video ends with him accidentally setting off a nuclear bomb.
Okay, so I've got the list on who is actually featured in this video. Keep in mind,
Okay.
every one of these puppets cost $10,000.
Wow.
$10,000 for each one of these.
Wow.
Which is probably why they shot the Invisible Touch video in a warehouse with handheld cameras.
Right.
Okay, so you've got Ronald and Nancy Reagan. You also have Bonzo, which is
The monkey
the
from
monkey.
the Ronald Reagan movie.
That's right.
What was it? Bringing a Bonzo.
Bringing up Bonzo. That's
Yeah.
right. Okay, you've got Tony Banks, Mike Rutherford, Phil Collins. You've got Mussolini, Khomeini, Gorbachev, Gaddafi. Then you've got a rhino. You've got Johnny Carson, Richard Nixon, Spock, Bob Hope. You have dinosaurs. You have Margaret Thatcher. You have Prince, Pete Townsend, Tina Turner, Madonna with a talking belly button.
It was so weird.
You have Grace Jones, Mick Jagger. It's basically a recreation of the We Are the World video. You got Michael Jackson, Bette Midler,
That's exactly what I thought.
Princess Diana, right?
Right.
Princess Diana, Sting, Bruce Springsteen, Hulk Hogan, and Pope John Paul II on guitar.
Tell me why this is a land of confusion. This is the world we live in.
Yes. I don't know how many names you just mentioned, but if each one of those is really $10,000, that's an expensive cast of characters.
Yes. So this won the 1987 Grammy for Best Concept Video.
yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
It was also up for 6 categories in the MTV Music Awards, okay? And it lost every single category to Sledgehammer,
That is tragic.
right? And
Yeah.
listen, this is one of the most iconic music videos of the 80s.
Absolutely.
So I think it can be attributed to the success of the song, but I also kind of feel like it's an anchor around the song because the video is silly and the song is serious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's a serious subject, but I mean, that's what satire is it's making funny comments about something that's very serious.
This was the 3rd single. It reached number 4 on the Hot 100.
Yep.
Number 3 is C'est La Vie by Robbie Neville. It's a good one.
Okay.
I liked it. Number 2, Open Your Heart by Madonna.
Okay.
Kind of the Peep Show video. And number 1, At This Moment by Billy Vera and the...
Oh, right. By the way, guys, that's a little tip of the hat to one of our Patreon episodes. If you are interested in hearing about one-hit wonders, go check out our Patreon page. We've got a lot of them now. Dang, we've been doing this for years. We've
Thank you
got
all.
a bunch of those, and you get the full access to the full catalog of all of our one-hit wonders, plus all of our new releases, which come out every month. You go to patreon.com/ShirleyPodcast, and you get some of the coolest, funnest episodes that we have.
Thank you very much for all of our Patreon members. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, I truly appreciate you guys.
Okay, I've got a quick story on the creation of this song.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a Mike Rutherford song.
Okay, yeah.
So he was in charge of writing the lyrics for this song.
Yep.
Okay. Well, he was really sick and they were up to like this massive deadline. They had to get it done. And so he has like the flu. He's got like 103 temperature. He's in bed dying. So Phil goes to his house and sits there like a secretary and is like, all right, here's the next verse. What do you got? And he just like from his flu-ridden, sweat-soaked sheets, he gives him the lyrics to this song.
Wow.
And you get this number 3
Monster.
hit. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yes.
That is incredible. I cannot believe this didn't hit number 1. Blows my mind.
It's better than the 2 songs in front of it.
Yes, it is.
including our Patreon.
Yeah,
song.
it is. It is.
Okay, just a couple more nuggets for you on this song. I think
Okay.
it's fantastic. This was the opening concert song in their 1992 tour, kicking it off with a bang. You start the concert with Land of Confusion. That's how you know your catalog is loaded.
Yeah.
Disturbed, the rock band Disturbed, came out with their version of this song. It went to number 1 on the Hot Rocks chart.
Yep.
And this is the only song to be featured from this album in any way on Miami Vice.
Really?
Yes.
Now, this was the time for any Phil Collins song to be in Miami Vice, but of this mega album, there's only one song. You got episode information for us?
The episode is called Free Fall.
Okay. Seems like they should have got Tom Petty for that one. Huh?
Right. Right. So I looked at the clip, right? You got Crockett and Tubbs, and they're chasing down this bad guy who's played by Ian McShane,
Okay.
right? And he's a general from a Central America type of country.
Okay.
And they're spying on him, and the girl that is bringing a bag full of money to him, Crockett says, I bet what she sees in him is right there in that bag. Miami Vice.
Classic 80s lines. I love it.
All right. Next song on the album?
Yep. This song is called In Too Deep.
All that time I was searching, nowhere to run to.
All right. This has to be on the Makeout playlist of 1986.
Yeah, this one was released in 87, so for me it's Makeout List 87 for
Yeah.
sure. This song was written for a movie. Most people don't even know that.
Okay, so the movie that you're referring to is the Mona Lisa movie, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
So as I understood it, I heard Phil talking about this, and the only reason my ears perked up because you had mentioned this movie when we were talking before. They had this song, and they had already like composed the song, but when the people making Mona Lisa hit them up, they were like, oh, well, we've got this, but let's rewrite the lyrics. And so they adjusted the lyrics to more be in line with what the movie was. So it wasn't created for the movie, but they rewrote the lyrics so that it would make sense with the movie.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So this movie stars Bob Hoskins.
Which we talked about as a potential twin of the third bear and the three
That's
bears.
right.
Danny DeVito.
That's right.
Phil Collins.
And don't forget Kim Basinger as Goldilocks.
Right.
So here's my quick Bob Hoskins story, right?
Okay, yeah.
So I called you last night. We were talking.
Yeah.
If you've ever watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit, it sounds like he's from Queens. I mean, he's got a New York accent and blah, blah, blah. Well, we hear him on a talk show. He's got a real thick English accent.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah.
And he was telling a story. He was asked by Brian De Palma to star as Al Capone in The Untouchables.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so they were talking about it, and Bob Hoskins like, yeah, I'd love to be Al Capone. And Brian De Palma said, well, I've asked Robert De Niro. He's my number one. If he accepts, I got to give it to him. But if he doesn't, you're in. Because he's just really hard to pin down. So time goes on. Of course, Robert De Niro accepts, and they make the movie. Well, Bob Hoskins thought, well, that ship sailed, obviously, and they didn't want me, and I didn't ever hear anything back, and that's just kind of how it goes.
Right.
So one day, he goes to his mailbox, and he opens up a letter from Brian De Palma, and it says, Dear Bob, thanks so much. Here you go. It's a check for $200,000. And so Bob Hoskins sent a letter back to Brian De Palma. It's like, if you ever want me to not be in any other movies, you just let me know.
Wow.
How about that?
Wow. That's, yeah. Hey, guys, if you're ever going to send me a check in the mail for $200,000, will you give me a text? Let me know it's coming and keep an eye out for it.
So I don't shred it.
So I go, whatever.
Oh, my gosh. So this song reached number 3 in June of 87.
You know I love you, but I just can't take this. You know I love you, but I'm playing for keeps.
Okay. Here's your top 5. Always by Atlantic Starr.
Yeah.
Makeout song extraordinaire.
Right.
Number 4, Alone by Heart.
Well, we love that for sure.
Love that makeout song.
Probably my favorite heart song of the 80s.
Right?
Yeah.
Number 2, In Too Deep by Genesis.
Yep.
Number 2, Head to Toe by Lisa and Cult Jam.
Lisa Nicole Jam.
Yep. And number 1, I Want to Dance with Somebody, Whitney.
Whitney Houston. Wow. Well, that's not a bad list.
The album that kept Girls, Girls, Girls out of the number 1 spot, although Nikki Sixx smells a rat.
Right.
Go back to our
Right.
Girls, Girls, Girls episode on that.
Yep.
All right, everybody, hit stop on your tape player, kick it out, flip it over for side 2, and we start off with the song, Anything She Does.
Tell me you don't hear this song and think of The Heat Is On by Glenn Frey from Beverly Hills Cop
okay.
3.
Yeah.
2. From Beverly Hills Cop. Sorry, Freudian slip there. Nightmares about Beverly Hills Cop 3. But the kind of thumpy bass that they've got on this and the quick pace, this just very much seems like The Heat Is On to me.
Yeah, I can hear it kind of with the horns and stuff there.
Yeah, exactly,
That's it. Okay. I feel like this has been played 1,000 times at Oklahoma basketball games,
Oh, okay.
right? I reached out to our resident Oklahoma basketball experts, Patreon members, Doug Gray and Blaine Peterson.
Uh-huh.
And I said, guys, tell me this song. I'm not crazy. This song has been played at OU basketball games. And they both said the same thing. I think it was Billy, Don't Forget My Number from Phil Collins. And I was like, shoot. And maybe it was. So,
Because you're not anywhere I can't find you. All right. Well, that's interesting.
so this song was not released as a single, but it did have a video.
Yeah. Yeah, you were emphatic that I watched the video.
You
and
got to watch the video.
I'm very glad that I did. You mentioned the page 3 girl in there, and
There's 2 page 3 girls in there.
well, there was one on the page 3, in the page 3, on the page 3, and then on the camera. And I told you, I was like, I remember this video from when I was like 10 years old because I was like, is she wearing a top?
I'll never get to know her. I'll be the cause of anything she does.
Is she covered up there? Are they allowed to show this? What is going on? But you've got Benny Hill as chief of security.
Fred Scuttle, yes. And he says, security will not be laxative here today.
Yes. Yeah, we don't want people coming in without the pass. Last time they came in and we didn't even invite them and they ate all our food. And he's like, if they don't have a pass, they're out on their ear.
Yeah, he said, let me go see if the boys are sober. I mean, go see if the boys are ready. It's like a farce. People are trying to sneak into the Genesis concert.
It's the old Benny Hill gags of, quick frame running around, chasing around, people sneaking in. It's a fun little bit. It really is.
Yeah. Tony Banks said the inspiration for this song were the pinups and sort of centerfolds that they had on the wall while they were writing this album. The scantily clad women.
Well, everybody needs inspiration.
I told you, I think Samantha Fox started off as a page 3 girl.
Yeah.
Also in the video, I noticed there's a whole lot of Kim Wilde gear.
Really? Mm-hmm. Kids in America, Kim Wilde.
Kids in America, You Keep Me Hanging On.
Yeah.
I'm guessing she was opening for Genesis at that time.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
By the way, did you notice the Princess Diana lookalike in the video?
I did, actually, yes. They're wearing the little tuxedo shirt with a red bow tie.
What kind of outfit was that?
I don't know. But she definitely had the right color hair, right cut of hair to be a Princess Di double.
If you haven't heard our Princess Diana story with Phil Collins,
go back and check out that episode. It is worth the listen, I promise.
Last week on No Jacket Required.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, next song on the album is called Domino.
The gray of evening fills the room. There's no need to look outside to see or feel the rain.
Okay, so my first question for you is this separated on the tape? Because if it's on Spotify, you're looking at Domino, parentheses, part 1 and 2. Did they separate it out on the DVD or CD or the tape or any of that?
I don't believe so, no.
So this is a part 1 and part 2 song. Now my next question is, which part do you like better?
I like the last Domino better.
Yeah, part 2 is my choice as well. The first part, I was like, okay, this is going to be a long 10-minute song. But then in about 4 minutes in, they downshift and it becomes a thumping, epic, arena rock kind of song. And I love the second half for sure.
They're really proud of this one.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of like, okay, whatever,
Yeah.
It's not a single. It's more like old Genesis.
Yeah.
It's longer. They're kind of weaving here and there.
So we say old Genesis. We still really haven't talked about them as a band and how the genesis of Genesis, if you will. All right.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So Charterhouse, founded in 1611 by Thomas Sutton. About 400 years later, 450 years later, the boys, Peter Gabriel and Tony Banks, and eventually Mike Rutherford and Ant Phillips, all were going to school there and all hated it and kind of hit it off with each other about how much they hated the school. And so Tony Banks and Peter Gabriel started a band with a drummer named Chris Stewart, and that band was called Garden Wall.
Garden Wall? Okay.
Garden Wall, yes. And then Mike Rutherford and Anthony Phillips were in a band called Anon, short for anonymous.
Okay.
Which I guess they had to be anonymous because apparently it was against the rules to play the music, and Mike Rutherford actually got banned. Had to leave the band because he got banned from playing the guitar for a time, and then eventually got the ban lifted and was able to play with Anon again. But, Chris left the band, and Mike Rutherford and Anthony Phillips and Peter Gabriel and Tony Banks all joined up together to form a new band. And they were actually doing some pretty good music. And there was a kid from Charterhouse who had gone to school there about 4 years earlier who had a kind of a hit single. His name was Jonathan Hill.
Yeah.
And his hit single was Everyone's Been to the Moon. I listened to it today. It sounds like a song from the 60s. It's just a kind of meh.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just kind of a groovy little, groovy kind of love, if you will.
Nice.
And so they contacted him. They were like, hey, can you help us get signed, get a record deal, get recorded, all that stuff? And he had made a little money off of the single, and he absolutely fell in love with Peter Gabriel's voice. And so he said, yes, but your band needs to change its name. My suggestion is Gabriel's Angels.
Yeah, okay, cool.
And so I'm sure Peter was fine with that, but everybody else was like,
how about no?
I'm out on that one. So Jonathan Hill's next suggestion was, yes, I want to keep a biblical idea. Why don't you guys use the band name Genesis? And everybody was cool with that. I mean, it's like, hey, it's the beginning of a thing. So Genesis seems appropriate. And so Jonathan Hill works with them to produce their very first album, which is called From Genesis to Revelation.
I like it.
It sold a whopping 649 copies.
Hey, got to start somewhere.
That's right. So when it did as poorly as that, Jonathan Hill was out, which is probably good for them because around the time that these albums that we're talking about today were coming out, he was involved in some things that would get him in trouble about 15 years later. 2000, he gets accused by 27 men of having had inappropriate sexual relations with them when they were 14 and 15 years old back in the mid-'80s. And 5 of the 27 charges stick. He got acquitted on 22, but 5 of them he was found guilty, got sentenced to 7 years in prison, fought it, of course, still fighting it, still advocating that it didn't happen. But yes, the guy who came up with the very biblical band name for Genesis is a sex offender.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, so how does Phil become involved in Genesis?
Okay, so you've got Peter Gabriel singing. You've got Anthony Phillips playing guitar. Mike Rutherford is playing bass at this time. Tony Banks is still playing keyboard. They all can play other instruments, and so they'll switch around, especially if they're doing kind of pastoral songs or something like that. But while it's them, they do From Genesis to Revelation, they do Trespass. So those guys together do From Genesis to Revelation in 69, they do Trespass in 70, Nursery Crime in 71, and Foxtrot in 72. Okay, and so it's at Foxtrot, this is the stage, like they're doing their best, they're trying to make it, but they still haven't had a lot of success. But then Peter Gabriel walks out on stage in a red woman's evening gown with a gigantic fox head over his head.
Uh-huh.
And I think you mentioned to me that the other guys had a response to this.
They were like, what? They had no idea he was going to do it.
No idea.
And so there he is on stage, and they're like, what is Peter doing?
Right. Well, the answer is it was a gimmick, and the solution is the gimmick worked. Because overnight, because it was such a ridiculous presentation, they got tons of news coverage, and suddenly they were getting asked to do more shows, bigger shows, more money. And so for Foxtrot, that was that album. That album sales picked up after that stunt.
Sure.
And then they release Selling England by the Pound, which is where they get their biggest, at that point, hit. And then a guy named William Friedkin.
Yes.
You remember who that is?
He wrote The Exorcist. Is that right?
I think he directed The Exorcist.
Okay.
Yes, but that's who he was. Yes, the director of The Exorcist. And he's reading their album notes, and he's like, I would really like to write a movie with this Peter Gabriel guy. I think he's really got something like on my weird kind of horrific spectrum. I want to write a movie with him. And so he approaches him, and Peter Gabriel is like, hey guys, this big movie director's asked me to help him write a movie. Is it okay with you if I go do that? And they're like, we're not finished with the album. No, it's not okay. And,
Right.
And they basically are like, if you leave, you're leaving the band. And he's like, well, okay. And he goes and does it. And it's this kind of scary moment. And William Friedkin's like, God, I don't want to break up the band. So he basically is like, this is just a maybe thing. You shouldn't do this. And he sends Peter back. But at that point, that kind of possibility of like, Peter may just up and quit any time is now apparent. And then he becomes a parent. He has a little son who has some medical issues, and he's wanting to spend more time with the son. And these young, dumb musicians are like, listen, man, you need to be committed. And he was like, you know what? It's okay. I'm just going to, you guys keep going, and I'm going to go do something else.
It is kind of like telling your wife, like, what do you think about maybe getting a divorce? And then saying, oh, I just kidding.
Yeah. Not really.
Right.
Not really.
At that moment, it fractured.
Yeah.
Well, but you got to tell the story how Phil Collins gets involved, because this is all after Phil.
Okay, right. I'm sorry. Yeah, I forgot about how. So they lose their drummer, and so they put out an ad in the paper. And as I mentioned when we did our Phil Collins episode, Phil had been an actor, had starred as the Artful Dodger in Oliver at West End, which is, that's a big deal. And he had said, Dad, I'm giving up acting. I'm going to go be a musician. And he was basically panhandling, going door to door, trying to find stuff. And he sees this ad in Melody Maker of this audition to play with this band. And he recognized the band name, and he goes over to listen to.
I sent you that ad yesterday.
Yes, you did. Yes.
And it's kind of trying to be anonymous. Like, we need a drummer for an established band, but we're not telling you who it is.
Yeah.
And that way people won't freak out.
Right. And so he said when he showed up, he was in awe at first, because these guys, this charter school they met at is a high dollar school, right? And he grew up in a much lower class, if you will. But he was amazed at the house that he was at. But he showed up with a bunch of other guys who were auditioning. And he said, I just kind of chilled out and hung out at the pool, but listened to what everybody else was doing. And I would listen and say, okay, well, there's that guy's mistake. And so I'm listening to the songs that they're having them audition. I'm listening to the mistakes these guys are making. He's like, one guy took 10 minutes to warm up. I'm like, that's a terrible idea. And he says, so by the end of it, and he was like, I feel like I probably would have gotten chosen anyway, but I kind of had the upper hand because I had this opportunity to hear what was going on, hear the mistakes, and then bring my A game.
His buddy went with him. They needed a guitar player and a drummer. Mm-hmm. So they both auditioned. They thought maybe as a team we might have a better shot at it. Yeah. And when they left, his buddy, who was the guitar player, was like, dude, I think you blew that. And Phil's like, really? I thought I did okay, Yeah,
that's right.
So.
Yeah, well, and then, of course, Peter continues to do the crazy stuff with the costumes even more, and it's not just a surprise to the man anymore, it's pissing them off. Like, he's like, you can't even, with the giant mask he's got on, he can't even get his head next to the microphone anymore.
That's right.
It doesn't make any sense.
And we're talking ridiculous costumes, like the old man, and he's like, he looks like the grapes from the Fruit of the Loom commercials, and it's really weird stuff, out there stuff.
Yeah. So they release A Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, and basically they know that Peter's out at this point. He comes back to kind of do that tour with them, but they know, and he knows, he's ultimately going to be gone. And so they were like, okay, well, we got to audition people to be our new singer. And so Phil has been the backup singer for Peter Gabriel for multiple albums at this point. And they say, okay, well, Phil will show you how to sing this part to each of the new people that are auditioning. And every time Phil's like, no, it's not this, it's this, it's not this, it's this. And the guys are finally like, Phil, like, the songs, why don't you do this? And he's like, you know what? Okay, let me try it. Let me see it. Let me see what I can do.
I'll give it a go.
And so he sings all of the songs on the album. And the new album is called A Trick of the Tail. and it is the best-selling album that they had to date. And that was 1976, okay? After they produced the album, they're like, okay, Phil, well, I mean, you're behind the drums, so we really have to have a singer out in front, so we're going to have to audition singers and find somebody. And he's like, or we could audition other drummers.
There you go.
And they're like, yeah, okay, we can do that. And so that's what they did to tour. A trick of the tail was they had a new drummer come in the back, and Phil got to come out front.
Yes. And so, you and I were kind of going through their catalog, and at what point did you become aware of Genesis?
Yeah, so it was not until the 80s. It was not until the 80s. So Steve Hackett had joined them in 1970 after Ant Phillips left, and he had been with them through all of those albums. But then in 77, he literally leaves the band. He doesn't tell them he's leaving. He literally is just like silence. Like he ghosts them, as the kids say these days. He doesn't show up.
I heard this story. Like Phil saw him walking on the street, and Phil knew they were supposed to be in the studio. He's like, hey, dude, do you need a lift?
Uh-huh.
The guy's like, no, I'll call you later. Yeah. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
He gets to the studio, and they're like, dude, he's out.
Yeah.
He took off.
He just left.
Right before they exploded.
Right. Now, what he does is he goes and starts a band with Steve Howe from Yes. So that's not too shabby. That's not a bad bet, because you've got Yes, who, I mean, huge prog rock. Genesis during the 70s was one of the prog rock bands, right? Right up there with Yes and Supertramp, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they form a band called GTR, which is the abbreviation for guitar.
GTR, I think I've heard of them.
They have one song that does pretty well, but the rest of them are just kind of no hitters, and it doesn't really go anywhere.
Not like Genesis, who is blowing the roof off in the 80s and 90s.
Right. So then after Steve Hackett leaves, it's now just Tony Banks, Mike Rutherford, and Phil Collins. And of course, they named the album, and then there were three. But to answer your question, yes, it was 1980, Misunderstanding. That was when Duke is the album that it was on. Misunderstanding was the song that I first remember hearing from them. I don't know that I was like comprehending Genesis was the band that did this, but I know that song.
Yeah, for sure. Misunderstanding came out in 1980. I think 81, you had No Reply at All and Abacab.
Yep.
And then in 83, you've got That's All, which I think I had that on one of my best of 83 or 84. I can't remember.
Probably, yeah. And Mama.
And Taking It All to Hard. That was a really good song. I love that one.
By the way, that album, which is called Genesis,
yes,
was released on October 3rd, 1983.
Happy birthday, Dee.
Yep, my 8th birthday. I was in the that album was released. And then after 83, they go doing their solo projects, and then they come back with Invisible Touch.
Yes.
All right, ready for our next song?
Next song on the album.
Next on the album, Throwing It All Away.
Need I say I love you? Need I say I care?
A heartbreaking breakup song.
I think this is like a divorce song, right?
Yeah. Or, if you're in high school, it's breaking up song.
Oh, yeah. I would have bet my final paycheck that Phil Collins wrote this song, because he was famous for writing breakup divorce songs.
Sure.
This song's written by Mike Rutherford.
Oh, okay. Man, Mike had a ton of the very big hits on this album.
He had Land of Confusion.
Yeah.
And he had Thrown It All Away. So this was the second single released August of 86. I do distinctly remember when I broke up with one of my girlfriends, or actually when she dumped me. When she dumped me, I was like, you mean we're throwing it all 3 months? 3 months out the window?
Just throwing it all away. Throwing it all away.
You're just going to throw 3 of the greatest months of our lives away? Is that what you're telling me?
What have we been doing?
We're going to be together forever.
This song reached number 4 on the Hot 100, October 11th of 86.
Tell me the 3 songs that beat it out.
Yeah, okay. So 3 is Two of Hearts by Stacey Q. Two of Hearts.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Number 2 is Don't You Forget About Me by the Simple Minds.
Well, Patreon. Reminder, go back to Patreon. That's one of the first ones we covered.
Okay. Before I give you the number 1 song, the number 7 song this week is a song called Heartbeat by Don Johnson.
I'm looking for a heartbeat, beating like mine.
Okay.
You remember when Don Johnson had a top 10
Yeah,
hit?
I do kind of remember that. Yeah, making full use of his Miami Vice power.
Might as well put out an album.
Yeah. That's not a bad song, though.
No, it's good. I like it.
Yeah.
And the number 1 song this week is When I Think of You, Janet Jackson.
Jeez. I didn't realize she was so big that early in the 80s.
That was her first big album.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Good.
I almost spiked the football as this being the best song in the album. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I think it kind of fits with No Jacket Required. It's just that sort of pop ballad thing that Phil had going.
Yeah.
So I love it. It's a really good song.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is a good one. Obviously very memorable from that time period. Kind of sad though. It's not a make out. It's a breakup.
It's a breakup.
And I don't want to listen to a breakup song. I don't even want to slow dance to a breakup song.
Last song on the album?
Here we go. This is my new discovery. This song is called The Brazilian. Okay, so to me, this has got to be a throwback to the prog days. And once I was 40 seconds in and I hadn't heard any lyrics and I kind of saw the way the music was going, I'm like, oh, we're not going to get any lyrics on this one. And then I was listening more carefully to the drums. I'm like, oh, yeah, because we're getting Phil on the full 1970s. I mean, if I may bring it all back to what I said before, I think it was in our No Jacket Required album. His drumming blew my mind. When you go listen to Band X, which was his side project when they were doing their stuff in the 70s, his drumming is astoundingly good. It's like he makes Lars Ulrich look like a baby good. Like, it's so good. And here it is in this kind of cool 80s instrumental powerhouse. I could see this definitely being a Miami Vice episode or even like a full movie of something along those lines.
How about Magnum P.I.? Could you see it being a Magnum P.I.?
Absolutely.
This was used in an episode of Magnum P.I.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
It's also used in an 86 movie called When the Wind Blows. You ever seen that one?
I have not.
You ever seen Mona Lisa?
I have not.
You ever seen Playing for Keeps, the one he used in No Jacket Required?
I haven't seen Buster either.
I haven't seen Buster. I have not seen any of those movies.
I haven't. Nope.
This won a Grammy for Best Pop Instrumental Performance.
It's fantastic, and I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it.
It is new discovery for me. I'd never heard it before I listened to this album, and I loved it.
All right, Dee, we're at the end of our trinity of Genesis, Phil Collins, Peter Gabriel. Let us ascend now to final judgment.
Okay, first we got to bring in Chad Briggs, and he will give us his take on these 3 albums and how he ranks them. Chad, go for it, buddy.
So I think I would put as number 3, Invisible Touch. And it's not a slight against the album, but interestingly, I never owned the album Invisible Touch. I don't know why. I owned everything else from Genesis. I owned the earlier stuff, even like the very, very first album. I owned the CDs for it. For some reason, Invisible Touch just sort of slipped through the fingers. But for whatever reason, it just didn't. It didn't play as large a role in my life at that time. Number 2, I would probably put No Jacket Required. Now, this is really tough for me because if you would have asked me back in the 1980s, I think No Jacket Required would have been number 1. I owned the cassette. I played it all the time. Loved the videos, especially Billy Don't Lose My Number. I loved the video for that. Take Me Home as an exchange student was really, really hit with me. And, and Phil Collins was one of the first people to do these big world tours. And so the video, I think, sort of encapsulated that. But for whatever reason, it didn't follow me into my adult life. And so that leaves number one, I would say, and this is probably not a surprise from you if you heard me talking about Peter Gabriel. So, right, it was the first music CD I ever owned. Luckily, I owned the CD so that the proper song was in the end position. But Peter Gabriel So was just so much of my life. I owned the CD because I gave it as a gift to my best friend, Eric, who had introduced me to Peter Gabriel, introduced me to Pink Floyd, introduced me to all of the early sort of English 70s rock like Dire Straits, Queen. His parents had already bought him the CD for Christmas. And so he gave it back to me. And so I owned I had the CD. I did not own a CD player until years later. But it stuck with me. I still own the CD. I still have that CD.
That's awesome.
But the songs from that, I think, just sort of carried over into my adult life, into Peter Gabriel's Us album, which I know I mentioned to you earlier, Dee. Like, I was there in October 1992 when they released the album. Went to the exclusive company store in Madison, Wisconsin at midnight so that I could be one of the first people to own it.
Cool.
Went out of my way to buy the bootleg copies of early Genesis when I lived in Budapest in the early 90s. And then later I did go back and buy the proper CDs. So yeah, that to me was the top album. And again, not to malign any of the Genesis songs, any of the Phil Collins stuff. Still always loved him, but for me, So was it. That was one of my favorite albums of all time.
Thanks, Chad. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Chad. Okay. Not a big surprise.
No surprise there.
No surprise there. Chad started the conversation we had with, okay, I want to do So, and what else do you guys want to talk
Right,
about?
exactly, right. He planted his flag pretty early on that one.
Okay.
I want you to go first.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, you go
Okay.
first.
So this is really interesting to me because I had never listened to the entire album of any of these three albums before we started doing this. I was obviously very familiar with tons of the songs that are on it because of the singles that are out. And when Chad suggested So, I was like, ugh, is there something on there besides? Is that the one with Sledgehammer on it? Couldn't even remember any of the other songs. Now, of course, once I reviewed it, I was like, oh, these are all incredibly good songs. But the other two albums have more nostalgia for me than So does. And Sledgehammer, I was tired of it by the time it went its full run. So I got to put So at number 3. Now, what I have left is basically Phil Collins versus Phil Collins here. And it's hard. This is really, really hard because I feel like that Invisible Touch has more stronger songs, but I feel like No Jacket Require has stronger songs. Like, it's not as many, but I feel like No Jacket Required's, when it hits harder than Invisible Touch.
Interesting. Okay.
And so this is a very, very close call for me, but I have to pick as number 1, No Jacket Required. Invisible Touch is a very, very close second.
Okay, yeah. That's so interesting. Okay, so I'm glad you went first because I've been wrestling with this all day.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I think there are brilliant songs on Peter Gabriel's album, So. I definitely didn't know it as well. It did rise in my eyes after taking a deep dive with Chad and him guiding us through that. So
100% moved the needle for me.
It did move the needle for me. I appreciated it definitely more now than I did. And then I'm looking at No Jacket Required, which I owned, and Invisible Touch, which I owned. And I'm like, man, these songs are so good and they're so anchored in those years for me, 85, 86. No Jacket Required is kind of like Star Wars in that I fell in love with it right off the bat. I love the songs. There's a lot of them. They're all good. There's no skippers. And there's even a bonus song, which I think is amazing. But Invisible Touch for me is kind of like Empire Strikes Back. Just when I didn't think it could be any better, I think those songs just hit me harder.
Yeah.
Land of Confusion, Invisible Touch, Tonight, Throwing It All Away. Those are just amazing songs. So by a nose, by one of Mike Rutherford's beard hairs, Invisible Touch ekes out No Jacket Required with So finishing third.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go, folks. Tell us what you think. Hit us in the comments. Rank it up for us. Tell us why you love whichever album you think is the best. Be sure and check us out on Facebook. Check us out on X, formerly Twitter. Send us an email. Like, that's what Chad Briggs did, and now he's one of our best friends. So you can email us, shirleypodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you, but be careful. We might recruit you to co-host an episode if you come in.
That's right.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you to our Patreons who financially support us. We would truly appreciate that if you can't give the financial support, that you give a thumbs up, give a 5-star, give whatever awesome thing you can do, and hit that subscribe button on YouTube too. Okay.
We're trying to grow our YouTube page for sure. So
yeah. So guys, we got a pretty epic contest coming up on our next episode, Jason.
So next week this is totally coincidental, but Val Kilmer's death just happens to coincide with our matchup of Weird Science, a sort of snobs versus slobs, almost a Revenge of the Nerds type of story, with Real Genius.
Same thing.
Val Kilmer.
Nerds in love.
The nerds save the day.
Exactly. Yeah.
So come back next week as we dive into Weird Science versus Real Genius.
See you guys then. Thank you so much.